Good afternoon and welcome to Tech Trends on Business Day Television. I am Boluwatife Omotayo. Today on the show we have a lot to talk about, from hikes to bans and everything in between. But before we proceed, I'd like to introduce my guest today, Chinwe Michael. Chinwe Michael is a financial inclusion expert, and today on the show she'll be telling us a lot about how the new things developing in the industry have to do with financial inclusion. How are you today, Chinwe?
I'm fine. Thank you so much, Bolu, for inviting me here. Thank you for having me Business Day. Yeah.
All right, let's get right into it. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has once said that it's important to let the poor breathe. Yeah. But there's one thing we are not doing now, is letting them breathe, because at this point, the poor are about to suffocate. Now, let's get right into it. Yeah. The Central Bank of Nigeria has eliminated the 3 free monthly withdrawals previously granted to customers using other banks' ATMs. This used to be a perk, and it used to be the reason why people could use ATM services on other banks. Now, what are your thoughts, Chinwe? How do you think this can impact financial inclusion for the populace in Nigeria?
Okay, so like if we recall back then, whenever you use the ATM, it actually grants you 3 free access to use it for the first 3 transactions.
True.
Now, when the central bank come up with this guideline stating that first 3 transactions will no longer be free for people using different banks, that's like another bank, compared to when you use your own bank. Yeah, so for those that will be using their own bank, the charges still remain free. Sure. But when you want to use another bank, you have to like pay, and this comes with like for 20,000 naira, you have to pay like 100 naira. Now, the thing on this is that it's actually going to impact financial inclusion. How will it impact financial inclusion is the question. Now, we see that we have low-income earners in the economy, and these people sometimes, their fear of using this financial services is because they are afraid of spending more than what they get. So people always want things to be free for them, but now that we will have to pay for a higher charge, people will be like, okay, why should I pay when I can just keep my money at home and don't bother like to pay for any charge? So this is actually going to impact financial inclusion in a very increased way. And to think that Nigeria is that it's based on hitting an 80% financial inclusion by 2026. So I see financial inclusion not getting to that position at 2026. So that is how I think it's going to impact financial inclusion.
Thank you so much for that. I really like what you said about the low-income earners, because now, when I know that for me to take out my money from the bank, I have to pay this cost, I would keep my money under my pillow. Definitely. You know, rather than taking it to the bank to any financial inclusion, I'd rather stack my cash in the house, and that does not help the goal of financial inclusion by 2026. Now, the CBN claims that this price change is for maintenance. They believe that it is important to maintain these ATMs. It is important to return the funds back to the banks who are giving it out and all of that. Now, do you think, while that is their own claim, do you think it is fair?
Okay, so in my own part, I actually think it is fair. Now, let's look at the Nigeria economy. We see that inflation is rising. We see that the cost of doing business is also rising. True. Now, these banks are also profit-oriented, so they have to make money. And this ATM charge is called like an electronic product for them, and is a way of them getting fees and commission from customers. Yeah, and also it's a part of a revenue-generating stream for those banks. Yeah. Now, when they are not able to keep up with making money because they are so one of their major products is one of their major responsibility is actually to like render services in the part of ATM services and bank services and all. Okay. Now, when you think about this ATM charge, it's also a way to increase their earnings in the sense that they will be able to maintain these ATMs. Now, we've seen that ATMs has actually reduced from what it was in 2022 to what it is now in 2024. So as of 2024, it was around 14,000. This is a decline from what it was in 2023, that it was actually 17,000. Okay. Yeah. So them asking that, oh, we want those charges to increase because they want to like
expand, get more machines,
and all. So yes, it's actually a win-win.
Okay.
Now we won't get to see so much queues
at ATMs.
At the ATM stand anymore.
Okay.
So we get to see lesser queues now if they are able to keep up with this, yes. And if they're able to use the money for the sole purpose of getting more ATMs, ensuring that these ATMs are well maintained, and ensuring that these ATMs are well funded, so that when customers come into the banking premises, they are able to get their funds without delay.
Thank you so much, Iwe. I really like what you said about if the funds are utilized well, because it is one thing to increase prices and these funds are still not utilized well. So you're saying if these funds are utilized well, then it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely
because
a win-win.
Now people don't have to queue, there will be more machines, you know, and generally everything goes round. So I have a question now. Considering the cost of living crisis that we know is very prevalent in Nigeria today, people are always looking for cheaper alternatives.
Yeah,
Now when people move away from ATMs and move to POSs as a maybe more available option, now they use POSs. POSs charge pretty exorbitantly, because I think for every 5,000 naira they charge 200. Yes. So if a POS merchant charges that and I have to go to the bank and the bank still charges me 100 naira for every transaction, what then do I do? What is an everyday man supposed to do in that situation?
So thank you very much for this question. So this is where the CBN actually came up with the idea that it wants to diversify the means to which individuals can be able to get access cash. Yes. So this is where mobile comes in, mobile transaction comes in. We have the bank transaction, we have internet, we have the use of USSD code and all. So like we know that because we want to get this cash available to us, I think the two services that can actually give us this physical cash is when you go to the POS stand, or probably when you go to an ATM machine, or when you enter into the bank. Now, entering into the bank for cash is not an option for a lot of Nigerians, so they just prefer making use of this ATM stand or probably going to the POS agent. Now, why people prefer using this POS agent more is because where people are Nigeria has this mentality of always being pressed for time, and people do not want to go where they will have to wait and queue, and at the end when it's time to get their money, you get insufficient funds, you see insufficient funds and all. So they just prefer going to this POS agents, get their money. Some people do not really matter if the fee is 200, but you see people complaining, oh, why should I pay 200 for 5,000 naira when I can actually go to the ATM and get this money without having to pay any money. Now, when the challenge of this, what I see for this 100 naira fee for 20,000 is that people might want to switch to going to the ATM. But going to the ATM, is it really a good alternative? You know, because you might actually go and there might not be cash. You have to come back. You know,
speaking of ATMs, I'd like to ask, when you say people may now want to go to ATMs, we don't have enough ATMs to serve everybody.
Yeah,
but that being said, we have more POS merchants. In every corner, at every corner of the street, you find a POS merchant. Now, do you think the availability of POS merchants everywhere, do you think that's good for financial inclusion?
Okay, so definitely the ability of POS merchants everywhere is a very, very good driver for financial inclusion. Now, the reason why I say so is that these POS merchants, some of them are small business owners. Now, when a small business owner start up a POS business, this is an ability for this person to actually get daily income. And some of these POS merchant people, some of them are not literate enough to really understand. But when they get to use these financial tools, this is like embodying them into the financial,
empowering them, bringing them into the
space, into the financial inclusion space. Now, the thing is that this POS, no matter how the charge is and all, yes, we say that your question says that, sorry, can you help me with that question?
So I said POS agents being available everywhere, is that good for financial inclusion?
So POS agents being available everywhere, like I said, it's actually good for financial inclusion, yes. So we see that POS is more efficient in the way that when you go to use the POS machine, this is what you get. You get swift transaction. And also there is always availability of cash at the POS terminal, and also there's always like services. You don't get to hear, oh, you don't get to hear a lot of, oh, no internet,
No
no this, and no
network.
network and that.
Okay.
But that is like a total opposite when you go to the bank. You get to either see, oh, there's no phone or there's no internet, or you just get to hear one issue or the other.
Thank you so much, Chinwe. Now, I think I have one more question before we wrap up this segment quickly, because I think we're pressed for time. Now, currently, Nigeria has about 16,000 ATMs around the country. And on the flip side, Nigeria has 5 million POS terminals in the same country. So we have a very stark difference between the number of ATMs and the number of POS machines.
Definitely.
Now, what are your thoughts about that?
Like I said earlier on, I said some of these POS agents are actually small business owners.
Okay.
Now, let's go back to the economics of Nigeria now. In Nigeria, we get to see Nigeria has over 400 businesses in Nigeria. Now, these POS people they are just like a particular segment that is trying to survive, that's trying to get this daily income. Now, we have over 5 million POS. So if you check that 5 million, we get to see that there are some shops to go into now. So because of what happened in 2023, the cash crunch and all, so this has made a lot of businesses to adjust to other alternatives instead of just using cash alone. Now, so majority of this 5 million number that you mentioned, a lot are basically in small business owners' hands. And also we have people who just establish this POS as a means to get payment. Just to get little income for their daily upkeep and all.
Thank you so much, Iwe. Now, moving on. We've talked about one hike, but there's another. Now, telcos have increased prices. The NCC had approved a 50% increase for telcos over the past few weeks. And MTN, the biggest player in the industry, was the first to increase its prices. Now, there was a lot. People had a lot to say. People had complaints. People were wondering. People were surprised. They asked, was this a glitch? And in the course of the week, Airtel increased theirs too, which means that the telcos are now they are now taking up their 50%. We're now seeing it in action. Beyond the theoretical parts that the NCC said, the telcos are now implementing it. I'll give you a short backstory as to why there was a need for this 50% hike. Investments in the telecommunications industry had slowed for over 12 years. And so there had been no price increase for the past 12 years, which means that the telcos had suffered naira devaluation while patronizing a dollarized economy. And these things were not making the business of telecommunications thrive anymore. As a matter of fact, MTN had said that if care was not taken, it may have to pull out of the Nigerian market. But thankfully, the NCC has done something about that, given them a 50% hike, and we can see that today. Now, Chiwe, what effects do you think these price increases can have on Nigeria's digital economy? I'll give you context. Now, when we say that we want to expand Nigeria's digital economy, we say that because drivers of this economy range from data, internet, because at the end of the day, beyond the large internet plans, the little data plans also culminate in what we're expecting on the bigger scene. Now, how do you think this tariff increase would impact Nigeria's larger digital economy?
Very good question. So how this will impact Nigeria's large digital economy? First of all, we should know that this digital economy we are talking about is you and I. And we are the users of this internet. We are the users of this internet product. Now, when the product is on a high reach, meaning that when the price increases, it means that consumers will not be able to have, some consumers, not all, some consumers will no longer be able to afford these products anymore, these services anymore. Now, we should not forget that when we are talking about you and I in particular in the economy, we should also include people who are low-income earners, we should also include people who are semi-income earners, and we will also include the high-income earners. Now, you can see that the high-income earners, some people might, the truth of the matter is that this hike will affect everyone. So when you talk of a 50% hike, you should think that when you're going to pay 2,000 naira for, let's say, when MTN increased their 15 gig from 2,000 to 6,000 naira, it's actually a very high increase. No matter how you you want to paint the picture, it is a high increase.
Okay.
Now, telcos have, Airtel has followed suit. Now, Airtel has increased theirs to 50%. A lot of people last week, when MTN increased theirs, were thinking, okay, since MTN has increased their prices, they were thinking of porting into Airtel. Now, Airtel has come with its own increase. And we don't know for sure if Nine Mobile and Globacom will actually do so.
So I think that My Mobile and Globacom will still come up with theirs, but maybe they're just testing the waters and all of that. Now, I like what you said about the effect it would have on Nigeria's digital economy. Now, personally, I think despite these hikes, it is important for people to see good network quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the NCC had given the telcos a 3-month ultimatum to improve network quality. Exactly. Now, I think we have some tweets we can bring up to show that despite these hikes, people also require good network quality. Now, Big Ayo says, Glo being a Nigerian company and not taking this MTN hike in data opportunity to be the #1 in the country is crazy. Like, bro, fix your service and offer good deals. Now, this is this user saying that we understand that these ones have increased prices, but this is Glo's opportunity to come and be the big brother on the telco scene. But for some reason, Globacom has been quiet, and let's hope they do something or come up with their own increased prices or some better network quality to save the day. Let's move on to the next. Now, Ayobami says, my mates are investing in real estate while I'm here investing in pepper, tomatoes, and MTN data. And I think this stemmed from the first increase, that was the one of the 15 gigabyte for 6,000 naira that we witnessed last week. Yes. A lot of people had things to say because somebody even said, so when I'm supposed to eat, the food that I'm supposed to eat, I will now say, okay, let me first buy data. Is the remainder of the money that... So what people are complaining, we have think pieces for days. What do you think about that?
Okay, so let me give you an illustration.
Okay.
Let's say that as a worker, you earn like 70,000 naira. Okay. And every worker has a budget to which he or she wants to spend their income. Now, let's say like you bring out like 15,000 naira for data, and you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to use like 30 for feeding and probably 20 for transport and save the rest. Now, when this hike comes in, now you see that they get to train yourself to be able to get that data now. It's no longer going to be the same amount you spend before that you spend now. Data. And to think that when the data hike comes in, we'll get better connectivity. We tend to see that connection these days is fairly poor. It's not as strong or any other thing. And we get to see that the data does not even last to the stipulated time that
it's supposed to.
So what exactly is our benefit for paying higher costs for this data?
So I think that's where the NCC's ultimatum comes in, because the NCC has told them, you wanted an increase, we've given you an increase. Yes. Now the ball is in your court. It is now your turn to improve network quality and give people what they want. I think we have one more tweet. Let's just see that before we move on. Now, the law says this network is not good enough for MTN to start changing prices of data bundles. I have put on airplane mode like 5 times before it loads the comment section of a tweet. Now imagine posting with media. As a matter of fact, I saw another tweet that said, MTN has now made me a pilot. I now have a degree in aeronautical engineering because I turn on airplane mode and turn it off like 15 times in a day before I can get one message to send. So this just goes to say that despite the hike, people also want good network quality.
Exactly.
So we have spoken about the hikes. Now let's go to the ban. Now, DeepSeek, the latest artificial intelligence rave, has been getting some mixed signals over the past few weeks. Now, earlier in the year, in January, we discussed DeepSeek's launch and what it means for the global artificial intelligence space. Now, despite how cheap it is, despite the fact that it's a new innovation, which is going to rival, or which rivals OpenAI's ChatGPT, we find that countries are beginning to get a scare because it is Chinese. They believe that DeepSeek is a way for China to get their data because its data is stored on Chinese servers. They believe that DeepSeek now uses sorry, beg your pardon, they believe that China now uses DeepSeek to get their data and store it on Chinese servers. Now, Chinwe, what do you have to say about that?
Okay, so like DeepSeek, we all know that it's an AI product from China, yes. And this is like the lower version of OpenAI, in the sense that it is less costly than what OpenAI used to develop theirs. Now, the problem now coming in DeepSeek is that a lot of countries are banning DeepSeek in their country. And this has resulted to the fact that they are saying that Chinese government, the Chinese AI DeepSeek is trying to take their data for probably their own consumption, and which we have no proof to that, but that is what they came up with.
Speculations.
Yeah, that is just, all these are just speculations.
Okay.
Yes. So this DeepSeek now, the problem is like, okay, let's bring it now to Nigeria. Nigeria has the FCCPC, that's the protection agency that regulates consumer protection. Now, so as all other countries that
have theirs.
Now we have South Korea, which is the latest ban on DeepSeek. So the South Korea Protection Agency is saying that their data collection, their citizens' data collection is their priority and shouldn't be tampered with. And they see that the use of this DeepSeek is coming in to tamper with this their data protection rights.
Okay, now I think I'd like to localize this conversation, because when we say South Korea is banning DeepSeek, Germany is trying to know what's happening with DeepSeek ahead of their elections, Ireland is doing the same, Italy is doing the same, everyone is trying to do the same thing. Where is Africa in all of this? Where are we just consumers of everything the West brings, or are we even trying to say, okay, do they want to take our data? Should we be scared? Should we think of giving them restrictions? Where is Africa in all of this? Because despite all the bans, all the restrictions, Africa has been
so quiet.
Yes. So where is Africa in all of this? Do you think we're just consumers? We don't care. Take our data. Where is Africa?
Okay, so where is Africa in all of this? This is a very deep question, yes. Where is Africa in all of this? Now, I feel like Africa is just at the center of just receiving. And probably we've not understood our place yet in the economy. And until we understand that, if the Chinese government can develop DeepSeek, and if OpenAI can come in place, Africa can also do something. And this DeepSeek brought Donald Trump to think that, oh, if Chinese government can do this, then how about US?
So you know that OpenAI is from the US.
Exactly.
So that is not to say that the US has not been a manufacturer. The US has not tried to build its own AI. The US has, and that's even one of the biggest drivers of artificial intelligence globally. A lot of people didn't know anything about AI until 2022 when ChatGPT launched.
Exactly.
Now, but that being said, even Donald Trump, the current president of the United States, said that DeepSeek's launch is a wake-up call for America.
It is. Yeah.
And after that conversation, a lawmaker in the US also said that at this point we should be wary of tech products that come from China. So with that means that even the US that noted that, okay, they did it cheaper, so it's a wake-up call for us. They are also saying that despite its cheapness, despite the fact that they didn't need so much to build it, we should also be wary of how our data goes there. Exactly. And so it really begs the question of, okay, everybody's getting wary. As you've said, right now, Africa is just a consumer market. We hope that in the coming years, Africa would have its own feet grounded, to have its own stance in the artificial intelligence conversation. All right, so it's been a very insightful conversation. It's been one where we've had to discuss a lot, from the hikes to the bans and everything in between. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I am Boluwatife Omotayo, and thank you to my guest, Chiwe Michael.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Bolu.
You're welcome. Till we come your way next time, this is Tech Trends on Business Day Television. Stay tuned.
This is the Business Day Television broadcast.